Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and on the other end is a lesser of himself, Pascal Steve. The moustache, it's still there.
It is.
And I actually really like this look, Pascal.
You do?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's
not
better,
as long.
do you think?
My preference would probably be this.
Yeah, so first off, for the listeners, I shaved off my mustache. Not completely, but it was more like an accident because I wanted to trim it. Because I saw a picture of mine from right after the contest prep when I started to shave when I started to grow my mustache. I was like, short, it actually looked quite good. So I thought, like, let's trim it just a little bit, especially on the sides. I thought, like, just to get a bushy kind of mustache, like Magnum look, you know? And yeah, I messed up. I think everyone who has kind of a reasonable amount of facial hair has experienced something like this already in the past, where they thought, let's shave off a little bit, and then they just completely messed up. And this is what it looks like. Now, a couple of days after, it's already a little bit better because right after that, I was just like, holy shit, that's way too short. It was 60 millimeters. And I was just coming off from shaving or getting my haircut as well. I thought like, yeah, 6 millimeters, that's not too short. So let's just give it a try, right? And I was just like, holy shit, way too short. Katie was even laughing about me. That's what a support system I have at home.
Laughing is the best medicine, you know.
Yeah. And in the end, come on, I mean, it's a mustache and it will grow back super quickly. And I was just also laughing about it. We made jokes about it, like I look like Nat Flanders now and all that kind of stuff. So
I was thinking, who's the guy? If you've seen Friends, right? The guy that is in Friends and is dating Monica. He's older.
Ross?
I can't remember his. No, not Ross. Okay, yeah, you're quite far off.
No, that is the guy here from Magnum.
Oh, is it the same person?
Tom Selleck.
That is him. Yes, Tom Selleck. That's him. Yeah, you do look like that is how his is styled. You don't look like him.
But his was way more
different.
bushy, I think. And that would... So next time I will grow it like this. Because the fucked up thing is with that mustache that I had before that, it's so annoying. Sometimes while you're eating it, just like all of the hair is actually coming into your mouth. For all the female listeners, yes, it is that disgusting as it sounds. It really is, especially when you are eating on a daily basis something like quark, and then just like, it's disgusting. And I was kind of a little bit sick and tired of that.
It's like when I give Ada one of my yogurt pots, and she just shoves her whole head in there, and she's just covered in yogurt because of her hairs.
It's very similar to that, I would assume, yes. And yeah, in the end, everything has been said already. Guys, don't worry, I will make it grow back. That's not the look that I'm aiming for. But it's always so weird because in the first initial hours to days afterwards, you're always a little bit like, oh, what is this? And then you quickly get used to that look. Right now, it doesn't look off to me anymore. And probably once it's grown back, then it takes a little bit of time to get kind of adjusted to it once again.
I think there is that, like, there's a length and then you can go past that length and you're like, is it cool that it's getting longer, or is it just getting a bit weird that it's getting longer?
Speaking of
which, I have that with my beard.
Yeah, and speaking of which, you are now on a new mission, I've heard.
Growing out the hair.
Yes.
That's why I have the hat on.
Exactly.
It's still so short. I'm still so far away from like long locks.
I mean, this will take like up a year and longer.
This is why I was like, your wedding in... Have we talked about your wedding in August, haven't we? That's not like exclusive information.
No.
Cool. So, yeah, I don't know how we'll be looking for then. I might have thrown in the towel at that point.
No, at that point, you just need to gel it back. Like, very much kind of like, I don't know, the 90s Wall Street moguls. Like, what we've talked about last week, you know, with American Psycho.
Yeah. I don't know if I can get away with that.
I don't know.
Because of my hairline.
Maybe then you need to shave it, kind of put it over to the other
one
side. Yeah.
Or I can split it down the middle.
Or something like this, yeah.
Who's Killua, his brother, was giving me inspo.
Yeah. Inumi.
Kites. Yeah,
I know
Louis.
the nerd. You mean, right?
No, not the nerd. He doesn't have long hair, does he?
No, he has short
Louis has
hair.
long hair.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm transitioning to Hisoka, so not many people will get these references, I doubt. But you need to watch Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Steve, what's cracking on your end? I know that you have been hit for the very first time in a very long time with some kind of sickness. I mean, right now I have the feeling that everyone is sick. So many of my athletes, and in Germany, it's kind of record level amount of people who are sick right now. And that is, of course, always just from employed people most of the time. That doesn't even take into consideration like kids, self-employed people, retired people, and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of edging at around like 10 million employed people being sick.
Wow.
It's crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
But yeah, a lot of my clients have gotten sick, like probably same level as what I've had. Some of them have had to take days off, kind of training sessions off, and kind of maybe even days off work, and they've had like basically half-week deloads in places, and which is not too bad. Like, it's this time of year, training sessions are a bit hit and miss with people because of gyms being shut and short opening hours and things like this. So it's not such a bad thing. But yeah, for me, we spoke, maybe it was last time, I think, where I was like, I feel really trashed. Like, do I always feel this trashed? And I think it was like the start of a illness creeping in, because it was like Thursday, Friday. Normally by that time I'm feeling pretty raring to go, and I was still like, man, I cannot be fucked to do a deload session. Why is loaf so hard? And then the sore throat started kicking in over the weekend, and thankfully the sore throat went this morning. But now I've got like that tickly throat, and like you want to cough and you're sneezing, and my voice sounds a little off to normal. But hopefully I'll be pretty much 100% for Christmas. The joke is I'm always sick or not feeling well when we go to Charlotte's parents. I don't think we've ever gone to see them and I felt well. I'm always like a bit sick, or I'm like, in prep or something like this. And it's just like they always get the worst of me. But yeah, hopefully it will fly by and it won't be such an issue, because today's training session, actually, yesterday wasn't an amazing... it was Monday. Okay. So yeah, I'm 3 days into this meso, and today was the best training session so far of the week. And it went better than I expected it to go, which is quite rare at this stage of your training career. Like, sessions don't tend to go better than you expect.
No,
so
absolutely. Sorry to hear that it caught you now. I'm sorry to say this, Steve, this was your moment to shine with the sickness, but it has caught up on me as well once again. As you can tell, sorry for the sniffing and for the disgusting noise. It's crazy. It's awful. It is annoying, and I don't even want to talk about it anymore, because the people listening won't get any kind of takeaways anymore, because every kind of second episode is basically like Pascal sickness, what to do when you are sick. So I feel you. That's what I'm trying to say here.
I had one client checked in yesterday, and every single person in his family was sick. So his 3 children and his wife was sick, and like badly sick as well. Like, he had to go to like hospital and get like various drugs and things for some of them, like to help recover from it. And he was working at the same time and like traveling back and forth, because it was like Christmas at like the other family and what have you. And I was just like, dude, you're going for a rough time. How have you not got sick? He's not sick. He's like, I'm sleeping all right, actually, because my wife's like sleeping with the kids and I get to sleep in my own bed. And I was like, I'm glad I'm not in that sort of situation. I can deal with me being sick, not a whole family.
That is crazy indeed. I mean, Katie is barely ever getting sick as well. I would very much assume that it also has to do with her being exposed to other people, like on a daily basis. She is working with other kids. She is, just like interacting with people on a daily basis. And I'm not so much. And I could imagine that it has something to do to build then up a little bit of more resistance. And of course, we know that from the scientific literature, and that if you're exposing yourself to hard training, that your immune system is suppressed for a short period of time.
Yeah, and always think of this when like you or me go to like I don't know, if we go to a big event, it's like we're going to get sick because there's just so many freaking people that we never see. Oh, airports are really bad for it if you travel in airports, like you recently did. Like, that's just a congruence of so many fucking people so many germs. But there's,
By the way,
I don't know. Oh
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that the thing it just sprung into my mind is Freshers flu. So this is it's just a thing that happens is in Freshers week, everyone gets sick like the first week of uni when there's so many people and they're like, no one's getting any sleep. Everyone's having booze. Their immune system's suppressed and you just feel like garbage like the next weeks after.
How do you feel about, so after COVID, most people are now very much sensitized to sick people around them. I have the feeling that I'm way more aware of when someone is coughing behind me than I was before. Before that, I was already kind of, go away. But right now, it's more like, oh, God, hey, what's wrong with you, you know? And yesterday evening, I was at the supermarket because I wanted to pick up some Lebkuchen. And they didn't have any kind of Lebkuchen anymore, Steve. What is fucking wrong with the market? I mean, it's December. In September, they have Lebkuchen on end, and now in December when you really crave them, not there. Anyway, short tangent here.
On that note, I've caught a few people saying side tangent.
Yeah, maybe
apparently Eric Helms said it in a recent podcast.
Hey, and as we know, Eric is one of the smartest people in the industry. If he is saying
he's
that,
copying me.
I mean, yeah, probably. It's kind of a legitimacy to then say it that way as well. Anyway, what I want to say is there was this one guy, and I'm curious to hear your take on it. There was this one guy walking around, and you could really hear that he was quite sick, coughing extremely much. I was just taking a look at him. No mask, right? No mask. And also coughing into his hand the entire time. Like, I don't know. I was just like, what is wrong with you? I was always kind of a big fan of Japanese culture. What I very much always appreciated is that they put on a mask to then not really save themselves or kind of secure themselves from anything. No, out of respect for people around them. And I was really hoping that if there was one good thing about wearing masks, then it is a long-lasting thing, that it will be that people are then wearing masks when they are sick and still feel the urge or need to go out. And at least in Germany, that's not the case. And I was really hoping for it because I really always liked it. Even before COVID was a thing, I was always kind of like, why aren't people doing it here in Germany? Because it just makes sense to then kind of, I don't know, be a little bit respectful for your environment. How do you feel about it when you are seeing someone kind of coughing big time in their hands and all that kind of stuff?
It's making me think, sorry, this is a tangent slightly, Japanese at the World Cup. I don't know if it was this one, but I saw like some clips from a World Cup and they're like cleaning up after themselves. They're leaving the stand, cleaning up. Just like, man, I mean, you're not going to clean up, right? Oh, no, it was like in the stadium. The fans were cleaning up after themselves. Yeah.
Oh. I just saw the pictures of their locker room, that it was just like super tidy and all that kind of stuff after they've left. Yeah. Whereas then other teams were just like total mess.
Yeah, so with someone coughing, I'm definitely more sensitized to it now, and I'm more aware of also me doing it. I'm not surprised that masks haven't become, I think they are quite a culture, like that's a big change for people to have to start like wearing that. So yeah, but it's like there's a kind of, I don't know if I can say this. Some people seem to cough and it's kind of, they do it in kind of a respectful way, not like ridiculous. Some people just fucking go wild with their coughing and I'm like, you're not just sick, you are playing to this. You're trying to get everyone sick. I don't know what you're doing. You're just being annoying now. Like, what's wrong with you? It's like they're drunk and sick and they're like, oh, this is funny. I'm going to make everyone sick. And I'm just like, God damn it. But yeah, it's same with like smoking. If someone's like smoking and puffing in my face, like it's almost a response now. I just cough. And like before I think I needed to be polite or something and like hold in the cough and not make them think that I was annoyed with them smoking or whatever, or like it had an effect on me. Whereas now I'm just like coughing away and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, he's smoking that.
I also think though, Steve, that has something to do with getting older. I just don't take things anymore. It's more like my level of tolerance is probably the same, but I'm now speaking up. when I don't really like something, or when I find something inappropriate, for example, then I just open my mouth, which I didn't do in the past. And also here today, we were just like looking at some kitchen stuff because we want to redo our kitchen. So we were sitting there, and I wasn't there for chit-chatting or having a good time. I just wanted to get it done. And that's why I was just there to talk about the kitchen, right? Whereas in the past, I know myself, I even said it to Katie, in the past, I would have actually been there to chit-chat a little bit, to also overcome the small gaps of silence, you know, because I felt it was so inconvenient in the past. And now it's just like I speak up whenever something is going on, like, or I see things on the street or so. And also in a situation like this with the kitchen, I just don't care about the gaps of silence. I'm just there to actually get that kitchen stuff done, you know?
It's like go and get your hair cut now. It's just like a process. It's like, don't worry, you don't need to speak to me. I'm happy just like chilling in my own thoughts right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't need the small talk. I'm terrible at small talk as well. It's like, I've never know anything to say. I'm just like, oh, I prefer silence. Everyone, I think sometimes I can probably come across rude in those situations where I'm not meaning to be rude. I have nothing to say.
Yeah. To you.
And I'm not good at small talk either. Oh dear.
Yeah. Let's go back to training and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how are things on your end?
So I just started my week number 1 of this new mesocycle, and of course, due to the sickness, it kind of got worse and worse. Never really completely broke out. So I have a little bit of a stuffy nose, a little bit of coughing, but not as severe as someone like Tony. Tony has been once again sick since like 3 weeks. We every single time he was free of fever, we thought like, hey, he's fresh. And I think every parent knows this. Kids, they can just handle crazy things, to be honest. He has like had up to 40 degrees fever, and he's just walking around as if nothing is going on, you know? If you had like something like 39 degrees fever, you would be down, you know? And that's why whenever he was free of any kind of symptoms from fever, we thought like, yeah, let's put him back into the kindergarten. And he, after a couple of days, he always came back with once again of a fever. And that has been the case since like 3 weeks. And for me personally, I've never felt any kind of feverish symptoms, just a little bit of a head cold, of like coughing and sniffing. And that's why I still continue to go in there and do my training sessions. I needed to modify it slightly due to the tattoo or hands on the tattoo, tattoos on the hands, and couldn't really do something like heavy pulls off the floor with then straps on. That's why I needed then to find exercise such as, I don't know, a good morning, for example, just for the time being, and also some pressing movements. And I don't know whether this was the same experience for you, Steve, but what I felt was whenever I had a barbell in my hand, even though that it doesn't really look like it, it puts a lot of pressure on then the hands, like the skin around the wrists, which I've never really noticed before. And that's why I needed to also there modify things slightly. I couldn't really do the pressing on the Smith machine. So the first week here was a little bit more of an introductory week, which is all right though, because as I had it with my tattoo appointment, I needed to modify things basically in order to extend the mesocycle. It's the same thing that I need to do here this time as well, because at the end of January, we are going on our snowboarding trip. So I want to make this mesocycle once again a very long one up until the point of then end of January. So having a lighter start to the mesocycle with slight modifications was not even that bad of a thing, and actually quite welcome, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't. It feels like ages ago since my hand got tattooed. But obviously, I had like hand and the whole forearm done at the same time. But mine was like early in the week, so I had almost a whole week before I was back into any sort of heavy lifting. Yeah. So I don't remember it being a problem. I think also, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that being a problem. I was also thinking about the straps. I don't remember. I think I could use them by that point. Like it wasn't a problem for me. No. Okay. Or I just put it over the top. I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to use them. But I don't remember thinking this could go wrong. Like it seems like a reasonable choice to make at the time. Like I was very cautious. But yeah, I can absolutely understand. Like that's why, like in the deload week itself, I didn't touch my straps at all because I was just like, there's no point. It's like a damaged area. So yeah, that makes sense. Extending it for the holiday, and then yeah, I guess the only thing I'm gonna say this and touch wood, overreaching into the skiing trip. Is that right?
It has to be that way.
You're going to be so tired for skiing.
Yeah, but the thing is, because the last time that we went on that skiing trip, I was also doing that, overreaching, then having the skiing trip, and the the snowboarding rather, completely destroyed me because you were using muscle groups that you're normally not using in that fashion, and also those movement patterns and stuff. And I do remember that the week after, I needed to take another deload because I was just completely annihilated. And I thought at first, yeah, all right, no training throughout this week, so I can come back after then this snowboarding trip and just back to normal. That was not the case, and I don't expect that this is going to be the case as well. So probably what it will look like, once again, longer mesocycle, active rest. I don't even know whether I can call it active rest. It's more like time away from the gym, coming back, and then probably taking another deload, especially because I have what it looks like now, another tattoo appointment on the 9th and the 10th of February, which I then need to travel for. And it's then on the calves though, so not really that big of a deal. That should throw me off too much. Should actually then, I don't know, I should be good after like 1 or 2 days probably once again, because it's an area that doesn't really have too much of an involvement with the way that we are lifting.
You know, you can't just bring up a tattoo and not explain for me. Now I need details. Both calves?
And
what are you getting done? Is it the same person?
No. I will talk more about it if everything is kind of confirmed, because right now it's not completely confirmed and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, once again, it's just right now in the plans. But what I found is that tattoo artists who don't have an assistant, they have of course take a longer time to actually then respond to your messages and stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would definitely keep you guys in the loop for this, that's for sure.
I'm so eager to know what it is now. I'm like so intrigued. So yeah, I don't really have any questions. How's the kind of rate? Have you had to modify? I'm assuming not calories. Like, have you had to modify your intake at all? Is the weight is it moving up?
Yeah,
gradually?
Absolutely. Trending upwards, 79 kilograms right now, and going well. And overall, I'm very, very pleased with the rate of gain, with how things are going at the moment. Just this entire last 2 years have been completely different to how things were all of the years before that. That's also one of those reasons why, as we both have discussed in the past a couple of times, those general recommendations of like, yeah, your first 3 years will dictate everything or will bring you 90% of muscle gain is completely untrue. I mean, for the vast majority of people, of course, there are people out there who are exposed to reasonable and sensible resources when it comes to them to lifting tips and all that kind of stuff, but the vast majority of people aren't. And for me personally, the last 1 to 2 years have been the most enjoyable and the best training years of my life, even though that it was full of kind of interferences due to injuries, due to sicknesses, and still I can say that this is probably the most productive months and years that I've ever had. And that just makes me super happy, and also very much looking forward to the future. Not in the sense of like having big ambitions or so, just like enjoying the entire journey, enjoying bodybuilding, having fun with training. And it's so funny because I was just training with Katie the other day, which is something that we haven't done in like 6 months or so. And we were on the leg extension machine, and it just also reminded me about kind of how far people can push it and how much they are most of the time holding back. Because she has very good technique and a very, very good execution, because that's what it is that we made sure of when we approached the gym for the first time. And then we were on the leg extension. I was just like saying, you probably have another 5 to 6 reps in you. right? If not even more. And she was just like, no way. I told her then, okay, next set, I'm going to tell you when to stop, right? And I just want you to focus and concentrate on proper execution. And she was actually able to squeeze out way more. And for her, it was a very big surprise. And she was also surprised on how hard you probably need to push yourself on a session-to-session basis in order to induce a big enough hypertrophic stimulus. And this is, I think, one of those reasons why I do agree that with the bros who tell or say like, all right, pushing to failure is probably what it is that you need. Because I think that when they are saying something like this, it's not true, absolute muscular failure or psychological failure that you can always push to. It's more like when you think that you have like 0 RER, it's actually more like 2 RER probably for the vast majority of people. And then you induce that stimulus that you should be inducing. And she was she was then by the rest of the day saying like, holy shit, my legs are actually for the first time in a very long time feeling very, very tired, very wobbly, very fatigued. And once again, it just goes to show the development of myself, the knowledge that I've gained and also experience around those things that then apply to my training, but also that I then can share with other people as well. I know, Steve, it was a lot of information there, and I don't know if you want to continue talking about specific things, but probably then about the pushing and RER and stuff.
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts that immediately come to mind. One is, I think often, like you'll have this probably with clients, if they got off the leg extension and they're not kind of struggling to get out, and like you see them kind of wobble a little bit as they go off, I'm like, you did not push that hard enough. Like leg extensions are excruciating in terms of the metabolite production and the burn that they produce. And when it starts burning, that isn't when you're kind of in those quote unquote effective reps. That isn't when you're like 4 RER. You need several slow reps almost within that lift. You can grind it more than you think you can versus other lifts. So leg extensions for that reason. Then also females are generally able to push for longer. Like if any of my clients can grind, it generally has been females where I'm like, okay, you look like you're at 1 RER and you've just done 3 more reps. Holy fuck. Or someone like Mike, as an example, Mike Chalice. Like some people can just keep going. Females generally have that kind of characteristic and trait where they can kind of do more reps than you expect. But completely, someone was actually asking me about this in the gym today. He was like, so where do you start with some of your clients? And like, what if they're not as advanced, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, the fundamental basic for me is when we just boil it down like this, we forget about RER, we forget about all these things. To cause the body to have to respond and adapt, it has to be hard. If you finish a set and you don't feel like that was very challenging, how do you expect to grow from that? Like if you finish a set and it didn't really challenge you, you can't expect the body to have to adapt and get better at it. So week 1 has to be challenging training. Like it's just like a fundamental, how do you expect something to, the stress response adaptation or general adaptation theory, like you have to at least kind of meet that threshold. And I think people have in their head that, oh, it's like that threshold's easy at the start. It's like that's where you've already gone wrong when you're thinking easy. So completely. And I've definitely applied this wrongly in the past too. And that can lead you down a route of, again, like junk volume and not quality sets. And that's why I think that brings it back to where you were at the start, where you're like, okay, in theory, if you have all the knowledge, you should be able to make the majority of your gains within the first 3 years. But there's an application and experience problem there because people think things in their head and then they apply it completely wrong. And I think that's where people get in trouble. So you need time experiencing, going through it. And then once you're like something clicks eventually. And I think we're now both there, absolutely, where it's like, now we know how to apply this properly. Now our training quality is even better. So yeah, I think that all loops in really nicely, your experience with Katie and yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think when it comes to knowing whether you pushed hard enough or not, right? Because I think from a physiological perspective, it's always a little bit different. Also kind of the interpretation of the pump of what really hard means, for example. If you're not that experienced, it's very hard to have that connection, especially just from a probably also physiological perspective, that you can't really fire as many motor units and by that activate as many muscle fibers. And then having the mind-muscle connection and pump is a little bit harder to come by. So what I would then recommend in that scenario is, if you're not making, and I know that this sounds like a completely idiotic thing to be focusing on, but if you're not making any kind of weird faces, you're probably not pushing hard enough. I know what it sounds like, but what do you think about this, Steve?
I think for the majority of people that absolutely applies. Sometimes, as much as I like it, because immediately my thought goes to someone like Jeff Alberts, and he stays so stoic in his sets because he is not trying to leak any unnecessary energy, which I completely understand and respect. But I think there's got to be some leakage to some extent. Like, you don't want to finish a set to failure and be straight-faced throughout the entire set.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like making super weird faces, but at least feeling from the inside that maybe your eye sockets are just fall, well, it feels like that they are popping out, or you can just like tell that the veins on your neck are just like popping out, something like this, right? Where you can really tell, like, I don't know, the blood is boiling up in my head, stuff like this. And it isn't about kind of screaming, shouting, making super weird faces, but kind of the expression internally, but also externally, that this is actually hard. And if it isn't, then probably it wasn't really that hard, you know? Yeah. And the reason why we have been talking about this excessively over the past couple of Improvement Season podcast episodes is to paint a little bit of a clearer image of what hard training, in my perception at least, or what that actually means. Because we even always question it. Train hard, eat big, or whatever people are saying. What does that even mean, you know? And putting some kind of, or painting a little bit more of an image here makes it easier to understand of what it is that we're actually talking about. That's why analogies are so powerful, because people can then start actually visualizing things a little bit easier. And that makes things easier to understand for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very well said. And actually something else I wanted to touch on, you mentioned your weight gain. So if do you weigh, I don't know how you approach, do you weigh in each day and then just look at averages and then adjust according to that? Is
exactly.
that how you approach it for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm weighing myself each and every single morning. I keep things consistent when it comes to this. This is always something that we both always recommend doing. Having a consistent approach, having a consistent environment. And sometimes even if I know that there was a massive deviation from it. So let's just say on the weekend, I went out with Katie, went to the theater, had sushi as well. I'm not going to step on the scale the next morning. Simply because I know that this will just throw things off, and it won't really be representative of what's truly going on. However, I'm also doing my due diligence of trying to get as many accurate readings in as possible. That's, I think, the purpose of data collection. If you can't guarantee that, then get rid of that data point at least, right? So, for example, let's say with the scale weight, if you can't really say that you're getting more than 3 to 4 times per week an accurate reading that is kind of consistent from the environment, the circumstances, then you should better look for other metrics than the scale weight, probably, right? And that's also applicable to other metrics as well. What good is it for you if you are tracking, I don't know, the sleep, for example, but you're a shift worker, and then you have nights where you only sleep like 4 hours, and then nights where you only have where you then have 12 hours. What does it then really tell you? And is there anything that you can do about it? Sometimes even we can't, due to then the life that we are living. So always also remember why you're tracking something, what that data tells you, and what you can do with that data. And if it isn't a reliable data point, then it's just a wasted effort to track it.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
Yeah, it's like in your example, you may have hit your macros and people would be like, oh, well, you hit your numbers. Why wouldn't you weigh in the next day? It's like, but you ate later, you ate different foods that you normally wouldn't be having. You maybe were to bed later, maybe weighed in at a different time. So it's just like that data point is now so kind of covered by dirt or whatever, muddied. So it's just not going to be valuable. You could weigh in and then just star it and know that it's bad data, but it's just not going to be useful. So just as a quick application of that, Christmas, if people are like eating completely different to usual, don't worry about weighing in the next day.
And if you just take it from a scientific perspective, if you were a researcher and you would have each and every single weigh-in is kind of a participant, and there's a massive deviation, most of the time, those massive deviations are being actually then disregarded and being pushed away out of the study, right? Because you want to have the mean and also have it according then to the circumstances most of the time. And if those requirements and circumstances aren't what is then required for that data to be taken into consideration, then get rid of it, throw it away. And I just know by experience that even if you eat 1 hour later and that meal is higher in sodium, this doesn't really sound like a big change. This can already have a major impact on then the next day's reading. And we are talking about like a kilogram, sometimes even up to 2 kilograms based on your entire frame. And that, if you're not careful, if you then do it on a consistent basis of like fluctuating big time and all of the variables are just like floating around, then it just makes it redundant basically to track that data. How are you doing things, Steve?
The same. So I weigh in basically every single morning, and then I might, this is the thing I need to probably be better at, is putting it into my spreadsheet and then seeing the average and seeing that. Yeah. Normally I have a good enough sense if you're weighing in every day, is it trending upwards in a right about the right direction at a good pace. So sometimes it might have been 2 weeks or 3 weeks until I've plugged it into the spreadsheet. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm tracking on. Normally I'm tracking well. Sometimes I'm like, oh, like maybe I'm a week behind where I should have made a calorie increase or something. Off season again, like it's one of those things where you can look at bi-weekly data and that's completely fine because you're not expecting there to be big adaptations to like energy output or anything where you're going to need to make a change. So if a surplus was a surplus a week ago, it's not suddenly maintenance the week later, especially if you're gaining at a reasonable pace. So yeah, I do it exactly the same way. The only thing I wanted to say on the bad data is the only thing I would want people not to do is, and I've seen this happen with clients, they don't weigh in when they go over the calories. And it's kind of like, so the data looks like things are going well, but it's because you're nullifying all the heavy weigh-ins you would have had by going over your calories. True, yeah. If the only changes happened, you've just gone over your calories. Sometimes seeing that heavy weigh-in is like, it gives you that kind of accountability you need to be like, right, like I have actually, when I first started coaching, I can remember my clients would weigh in every day, but they said, eventually it was like a month later, it was like, yeah, I only show you the data points, like the low weigh-ins, because they're the only weigh-ins I want you to see, because you said you only needed like 4 weigh-ins across the week. So I just picked the best 4. And I was just like, oh man, so this, like, you don't want to don't play with the data and kind of, make yourself
your
think
narrative basically, or what it is that you want to see. Completely, I 100% agree. And also, I have to say that basically on what it is that you said there, when you have a good control over your environment when it comes to your nutrition, so you are basically eating the same things maybe each and every single day, and you know that 1 week ago you've gained at an appropriate pace, it's like you said, things aren't really going to magically or drastically change unless everything else is going to change. But then you would need to make some modifications eventually anyway. But that's why I'm also such a big proponent of trying to keep as many variables the same as possible. That doesn't mean that you can't have variability in your diet, in your daily activity or so. But I like to always see things in... It's something that I've talked about like last week, I think it was. So you have 4 meals per day, it's 7 days out of the week, 28 meals for the entire week. And if you then have like 26 meals very much controlled, then it doesn't really make that much of a difference if you have a slight deviation on the other 2 meals, right? And that's the way that I like to approach everything else as well. If you get in your steps always at the same times, maybe it's always the same distance, you don't really need to track it that much anymore. For me personally, I don't track my steps anymore, and I just know that I'm probably somewhere around 10 to 12,000 steps because I've tracked it over a longer period of time, and that has become a habit of mine. And now I don't really need to waste any kind of more additional time and effort in tracking it and logging things down because it's now a habit. And as long as that habit doesn't really change drastically due to forced reasons or so, then you can just let it run in the background. It's like an algorithm that just does its job in the background. And now you as a programmer, you have the ability to spend your time on optimizing other things or focusing on new kind of algorithms, right? And at some point you're stacking up algorithms, and then you're just like an entire system that is just basically running on its own. And that just goes also back to why people such as Alberto Nunez or Menno Hanselmans, and even I myself with the last contest prep, I didn't need to completely track every single variable. I didn't need to track my step counts like on a daily basis. I didn't even need to track my macros meticulously because I had those systems so much ingrained that I just needed to make slight modifications and then let it run in the background and do its job.
It's kind of track as much as you need, not just more is not better. Mm-hmm. And I think with the way that you're putting it there, it's tracked, but you're not having to look at it because it's like it's happening anyway. Like there's nothing you're changing. It's like with me, with like my lifestyle. Like I walk Ada the same walks every single day. I do the same walk in the park. I walk to and fro from the gym. The only thing that's going to change is if I go to the supermarket one day, and that's such a deviation that does not matter. So like the only time my weekends sometimes get out there with steps, like this weekend just gone, I got like 25,000 steps or something because I met my friend and we were out in London. So that always happens, but it's kind of rare. And that's really nice because then it just becomes a lifestyle, and your off season should kind of just be a lifestyle where things just tick over in the background. That's what I was describing to Eric, who just competed. You want to, as we're going through the recovery phase, and he was kind of struggling to let go of some of the things from prep, and we want to, as much as we can, just get into like, it happens on the back burner. You can focus on other things in your life, and it becomes less stressful that way too. And that's something I'm going to apply because I'm going to Cornwall, Bude with Charlotte's family over Christmas. I don't need to, like, I'm not going to weigh in because I can't weigh in anyway, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to eyeball my calories, and I'm going to like attempt to track some of it. But obviously like Christmas Day and things, there's going to be a bunch of food that it's just not appropriate, and it's not appropriate in the phase that I'm in either to try and track or weigh any of that stuff anyway. It's not required. That's part of it too. And I know I'm going to be in and around 4,000 calories. I'm still going to be walking Ada. My steps aren't going to change that much. And so when I come back, I'll probably just, like, I won't have had that data. So it looked like I was blind. Who knows what happened? It's like, well, all my routines just stayed the same. My habits stayed the same. So you weren't tracking, but you knew everything happened that it needed to. So I'll be then back here and I'll start weighing in again. And then people might be like, why would you ever weigh in? It's because like eventually something might need to change. It's just that you can have weeks away, like holidays or periods of time where you don't gather it because you're so much ingrained in your habits and daily living.
I think everything that you said there is also the reason why people are attracted to something like intuitive eating, because the people who are able to pull off something like intuitive eating are people such as yourself, Steve, who have been doing this since years already, maybe even went through a period of their life where they've been so rigid, so disciplined, and they have gained a lot of knowledge in the process, and now are at a point where then the environment is basically always the same. And because of that, because they can just like start executing or just doing them because it's always the same, they can take this as an intuitive approach. And to the outside people, it then looks like, hey, he can do this. He can basically just not track. And that's something that I want as well, without having the fundamental knowledge and experience to back it up. And this is, I think, where then many people fall off the wagon and deviate, because they haven't. It's kind of like any other skill in life. You need to have a baseline skill, let's say drawing. Right? You can't just like go from zero to drawing masterpieces. Probably you need to learn those fundamentally basic things such as perspectives, shapes first, and based off of that, then have some sketches, layering, and all that kind of stuff, so that you then can draw properly after a couple of years maybe. And I think it's very, very cool to see though how far you've come as well, Steve, because I still remember that when we started working together, we both have been in a quite different position, also from the way that we've been eating and all that kind of stuff. And I know how also adamant you were. And also when it comes to holidays, that you never really took some time off. And now seeing you like this, being relatively flexible with everything and just knowing that you're still making the progress that you would like to, because it's kind of an ingrained system that is still running. It's like a factory.
And it's just realizing that like I can still nail the principles without being so in control, like a control freak. I don't need to be a control freak. I can still kind of hit my numbers and everything without that element of control. Like I'm still in control without having to control every minor detail. So the listeners are aware, I still track like daily, like when I can. Where it's just in these sort of situations when I know it just won't be even appropriate to do so, and it's certainly not required to do so for a short period of time. I like tracking. I like to know that I'm on point. Also, intuitive eating, part of that is like not purposeful weight gain or weight loss. And I certainly intuitively would lose weight right now if I was to just go by appetite. Yeah. So I have to kind of stay on top of my numbers just to make sure that I'm eating enough. But like, again, my day-to-day eating is so similar. I track it, but it's like, it takes like 2 minutes out of my day just to dot these numbers in. My dinner's the only thing that looks different. So it's not like it's a stress by any means.
That's the thing. Even this has become part of your system, part of those habits of plugging things in. And I'm still using my Fitness Pal, even though that Eric has given us access to Macro Factor, and yet I haven't used it, but I will definitely get to it. But for me personally, my Fitness Pal still gives me everything that I need, because you can always have like plug in the entry of date, yada yada. So copy a meal from another date. It couldn't be any kind of easier, especially when you are basically eating the same meals nearly each and every single day. And it takes, like I said, maybe 2 minutes, and it's just on the go, right? You can do this whenever. You can do this while you're commuting, while you're just cooking something, right? You will always find probably some kind of 2 minutes or so to plug those things in. And once it has become a habit, it doesn't really require anything from you anymore, like physically or mentally speaking. Right? You could do them probably kind of with one eye open, or just with one eye there, and then with the other eye watching an anime or so.
I think, and then I think people always take these perspectives from the extreme. And so like, it's not like you have to track every single minute thing, or you don't do it properly. It's like, well, you could, like, I don't weigh out my fruit and veg, for example. I just eat those, and I just track them, but I just know they're roughly around this amount.
Yeah.
So I don't need to worry about
plugging in one apple. Doesn't really matter whether it was like 200 grams of an apple or 150
180. Yeah, whatever. Exactly. I know it's roughly there. And it's just kind of being, again, it's that dimmer switch. It's not being, and everyone's is going to look slightly different. For some people, that would be too much. And maybe they need to just go to more of a meal plan sort of setup, and then they just kind of freeball it, and they only have to track one meal of the day. Or maybe they completely just stop tracking because they just hit a calorie amount and they can just track their body weight and they're happy doing that. It's just, I was in that extreme of wanting to track every single minute thing, and that led me down the path of being able to pull away from that. So I think it's fine to go through that experience. It's just then realizing if you go out for a meal, if I go out for like a vegan burger with chips, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't fucking know really how much this is, but I'm just going to roughly know some calories that are there, and then I'm going to go get some protein somewhere to get like an animal source of protein.
That's a good point, Steve, because I think that when you're eating out, you still want to do it in a reasonable manner, right? First off, often in most countries, it's a little bit more expensive to eat out. And at the same time, it just can get to the point when you're just eating out nearly each and every single day, that then there's a very, very hard way of making progress. Either when you're in a cutting phase to actually make sure that you are ending up in a deficit, or when you are in a gaining phase to ensure that you're always in a reasonable surplus. And I've realized it myself once again here this week, because on the weekend we had some sushi. Well, we went out. I had ramen for lunch. For dinner, I had sushi. And of course, I have no idea of how accurate I've been with tracking the macros, right? I just eyeballed it, estimated things, and just made sure that I probably somewhat in a reasonable surplus. And then yesterday, I had also a shawarma. And these are things I don't
What's
really...
that?
Shawarma is something like a kebab.
I thought it might have been.
And those kind of things. Yes, there are entries over on MyFitnessPal, but especially when it comes to kind of fatty things and things that are very, very hard to just like estimate, because they are consisting of things, other things, and or things that you haven't ever tracked, like putting on a scale and just like eyeballing things. It makes it so much harder. And if you do that too often throughout the week, it's something that I would recommend that you don't really do, even if you have a little bit more of a flexible approach. As we discussed last week, when it comes to the Xmas period, maybe you have that same approach as well when it comes to your kind of weekly schedule as well. Setting some limitations, reasonable limitations. Doesn't mean that they are restrictive or so, but you can say like, I'm not going to eat out more than 2 times per week. That should be all right, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Why do you have to eat out more than 2 times? Maybe there are rare occasions that you have to do it because of your, I don't know, work. But this is a more rare occasion, right? And it's always like when you're doing an Instagram post and you talk specifically about one thing, and that one person comes out and say like, but this does apply to me. Yes, but I'm not making that post for you or to give you some kind of criticism. It's for the general observation or population or athletes that we're talking about. And it's the same thing here as well. For the vast majority of people, probably you don't need to eat more than 2 times out. And probably it will also do you well, not only in regards to money,
Finances.
yeah, but also in regards then to just being a little bit more consistent when it comes to the environment, the nutritional environment.
Yeah, it just adds, it muddies the water, doesn't it? I've had clients where they've, like, when they have some of my more social clients, they have like, sometimes it'll be like a month, it feels like, where they're like going out multiple times every week. And I'm like, man, your sleep is so inconsistent. Your nutrition's all over the place. You're dehydrated some days because of alcohol. And it's getting quite hard to manage things. I'm kind of really just like, right now we're kind of maintaining, because you're not able to have the consistency that's required because you've been lifting for so many years to see really good progress at this time. And that's fine. You just have to accept that that's a cost. But if you're really serious about making gains, we can't have every month looking like this month or this week. And I've had that where, like, even small things that you wouldn't even think would be an issue, but for me, even if I have like a weekend where I'm completely away and I'm having to stay up later, like 2 nights of not sufficient sleep hits my next week of my meso cycle, and then I have to make modifications. It's the same with nutrition. If, again, nutritional labels can be off by up to 20% by the FDA, like that's huge. Then you think restaurants, even if they've got the calorie values there, I don't know what their leeway is of calories being off. They can be a lot. If you go out for a meal often, it's 1,000.
Yeah,
could be 200 calories easily either way.
That something like Subway sandwich is pretty accurate because I think that they have some rules of like how many pieces of
any fast food place
cucumber you're allowed to put onto the sandwich. It's very much calculated, and that's why very much because it really then comes down to kind of a big production of like Subway sandwich. They're producing so many sandwiches, and then it comes down to cents of kind of a margin profit when it comes to kind of the millions of breaths on a daily basis to be sold. And that's why they are very much kind of probably quite accurate with this.
Yeah, and this is something I was going to bring up. Like, there's eating out and then there's eating out. Like a Subway sandwich, I think I could probably do that and have one throughout an entire contest prep, and it's not going to be a problem because it's like within a margin that's so small, because like you said, they have to get it right because they have like certain like quantities that they're ordering based off the orders and all of this. They can't go giving someone loads or way too little. But then if you're going and having like, I don't know, a curry that's like mixed and it's sort of like you have no idea what portions you're having because you're sharing it with your family or friends because you want to try different curries and some naan here and rip that off there, and fuck, that's like a nightmare of how do you monitor that? Something like that. That's like a once a week thing if you're going to go do that. And with all of these things, you'll know when it's starting to impact your progress because you'll see it very quickly.
And be honest with yourself about it, because I think that, and I've probably been there myself at some point in the past, there's a certain level of denial because you want both at the same time. You want to make proper progress and you don't really want to give up on certain things that maybe you're eating, or when it comes to maybe eating out, spending time with friends, and that sometimes then also involves couple of drinks and stuff, and you're not willing to give up on anything. And in life, unfortunately, everything comes with trade-offs. We can't just have it all at once. Unfortunately, it would be great if we just like, we are Neo in the Matrix, and we just plug something into the back of our head and we can learn kind of jiu-jitsu. And we are now a master of jiu-jitsu without spending a lot of time. Right? And now we are going over to the other things. And that's why we have to come to terms with that everything comes with a trade-off, and we need to make a calculated decision of what it is that we want, setting some priorities, and also how much time we want to spend with something. And if you then don't see the progress that you would like, but you really, really want to see that progress, maybe then pull back a little bit on eating out. Instead of having 4 meals out, maybe only have 2 and see how things go. And maybe you then see the progress that you would like. Perfect. Then you have now your compromise.
I think I've actually got to the point, I wondered where my eating out meals, so I have a takeaway. This is consistent in my off season. Takeaway every week, at least once a week. Sometimes it's twice. And 1 meal out a week. Sometimes twice. So I have like, it's very, me and Charlotte would not go, because it's all over the weekend. We don't do it during the week. It's just because we're fucking lazy. Let's be blunt. Yeah. I don't like cooking. Charlotte actually likes cooking, but anyway. So that's like a range of up to like 4 meals that aren't anything that I have like monitored closely. But again, you can be strategic about these, where one of those could be like more of a Subway. One of them can be a little bit more like, oh, this is different. And I want to encourage people, like I said, that curry scenario, I want to encourage people to go and enjoy those events and not feel bad about it, because you might feel a bit anxious in that moment. You look back in a week and you're probably fine. For the people who are doing this diligently and the rest of the time when they can be in control, they are in control. But the thing I was going to come to is some of these meals out, they're not cheat meals because they are within my macros, but it's almost, sometimes they give me a boost in calories to help me actually get into the surplus I need at the moment. Coming back to weight gain, certainly all the way back that you've been gaining, I'm frustrated. My weight is not budging. It actually came down. It came down in my deload, and I was like, man, did I need to stay at 4,000 calories in my whole deload? I let it come down to like 3,700 for a few days. Man, why have I lost weight?
You and your nutritional kind of luxurious issues that you're experiencing.
Yeah, luxury. They are definitely first world problems, massing issues.
Yeah.
To get enough food. So yeah, it's just, that's why I got this. You can see these celebrations behind me here.
Yeah.
They can be dangerous, but they're just easy. Like just chuck in like 9 celebrations.
But this is, hey, Steve, I think it's great to see this, because if you're having issues gaining weight, you just most of the time need to get creative. And there are many ways to go about it. Even you back then with the mass gaining shakes of like, what was it? 1,500 calories per shake.
They were, I can't even, I've got nightmares with those.
But something like this, you know, or there are other forms of liquid calories that you can easily consume throughout the entire day. Gatorade, for example, is one of those, right? At some point, you will probably also get sick and tired of that as well. But if you're kind of having a time window of, like, let's say 10 hours, and you're zipping on something like this, you can easily chuck down a couple of 100 calories additionally to what it is that you do.
Yeah. And like big bottles of smoothies, or like orange juice, stuff like that, super handy. And that's why actually the takeaways or those meals out are quite helpful, because like I just get like we get a Thai green curry, for example, huge plate of rice.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is more rice than I would ever make myself, but because the chicken and the sauce is so tasty, I'm just like, man, I can fucking put this food away.
Yeah.
Whereas if I made something, I think that's where I need to get better with cooking. Pasta's good, because pasta sauces, even from a jar, I'm like, fuck, that's easy. Make that tasty.
No, absolutely. I would always say, like, and this is, I think Propane Fitness did it at one point. They said, Yusuf did the post, I think it was. He said, like, potatoes are for cutting, rice is for gaining. You can even take it one step further. If rice isn't enough in a gaining phase for you, go with pasta, for example, right?
Yeah,
and then you have like a little bit of a hierarchy, right? Where it's like, okay, for me at least, pasta is the easiest way of getting the calories in. Rice, I love, especially like sushi rice, also quite easy. That's why I can't really have that I can still have it on a cutting phase, but potatoes make it way easier than to have like starchy carbohydrates in a cutting phase.
Noodles are a good one as well. Mike Chalice put me towards like having noodles just with like some teriyaki sauce.
Yeah.
Fucking chuck that down. Yeah, anyway. I wanted to highlight that I'm having issues.
Yeah.
So
as a conclusion, I think it's important, because we are always sharing our experiences and the things that we have seen with athletes, of course, that we have experienced ourselves. And I think the takeaway points that we have been trying to hammer home the last couple of now months and years is that our approach has gotten way more flexible, but it has only gotten to the point because we have worked for that flexibility, and we're in a position where we kind of earned it. It doesn't just like come like this, where we are saying like, I need a break from this. I need more flexibility. No, it was an automated process due to work and developing skills, and by that opening up some more flexibility. It's kind of like the saying of like experience cures anxiety.
Yep.
It takes years to gain that experience, but once you have gained it, you shouldn't really be as anxious anymore. And it's the same when it comes to flexibility. Flexibility needs to be earned by gaining skills, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's you get better at focusing less on the trees and more on the forest, so less on the like different little variables and minutia that just ultimately doesn't really matter. And like you have bigger, more principled thinking and long-term thinking when you're more mature and you've been doing it longer. So like those small things, they don't really matter. But that like, I don't know, big thing that's happening consistently, that really matters. So kind of get on top of that. And you've experienced also going through these kind of phases yourself. So for you, you know how you respond to a mass gaining phase. So you now kind of every time you go through it, you know what's appropriate for you. You don't look at what I'm eating and go, I should be eating what Steve's eating. Surely I should have 4,000 calories. We're so similar. No, you focus on what you need. And same with me. Like I can't eat certain things, or I need to like be a bit more creative, and I get better at that and realizing, okay, this is appropriate how I feel, and I'm not going too down like this wrong route or whatever. Experience kills anxiety is a great quote.
Absolutely. Cool. Have any last words, Steve? This time I'll leave the promotion for you.
I was just going to say, it's the new year, isn't it? 2023. So I will say this. If anyone has listened to us over the last year and really resonated with our content and enjoyed it and thinks other people might, please do share it with them. Please do in any way you can show us support. Give us a comment, give us a like, give us a recommendation to whoever, and share it, tag us. We appreciate all the love. I have the feeling it's harder than ever on like social media platforms to grow. And so any of that stuff is really beneficial. As we have said so many times, we're bad at selling. We're bad at getting you guys to help promote us. And we really appreciate you. Thank you again. If you have listened for the last year, thank you for your ears. Thank you for your eyes if you have been watching. And we hope you stick around for this next year. And the final thing, if you're looking to compete this year, I really hope you've already got a blueprint or a game plan. And if you haven't, you've got a couple of guys who are probably in a position to be able to help you with that and bring your best package to the stage. Or if you've got a photo shoot or any kind of aspirations to improve your physique and you like a bit of what we've been talking about, we're happy to kind of be in your corner and help you out, or some of the coaches on the team if we're not the guys for you. So yeah, definitely look in the bio and apply for coaching. Otherwise, yeah, I look forward to more of this in the new year.
Absolutely. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.